Thank you for tuning in to Lynn Community Television's Candidate Forum, featuring candidates running for Ward 1 Councilor in the 2023 City of Lynn election. Candidates appearing tonight are Todd Bacon, Paul Gouthro, Jennifer Long, Peter Meaney, Jeff Newhall, and Michael Satterwhite. Tonight's forum will be moderated by LCTV board member Joe Scanlon.
Good evening. My name is Joe Scanlon. I'm the treasurer of LCTV. I've been on the board for about 5 years. I'm also a former councilor at large and a former councilor of Ward 1. I first ran for councilor of Ward 1 46 years ago, before any of you folks were born. So just a few ground rules to go over. Each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer a question. When there are 10 seconds remaining, you get a yellow card. When you see a red card, that means stop. And if you really keep going and you're bad, we ring the bell. Candidates will rotate answering the questions first. 90-second closing statement is what we plan on doing this evening. So we'll start with the opening statements, and we're just going to move around the table. It's a preliminary election, which means this is the first round, so we're going to try and make it as easy for the candidates as possible.
Thanks.
So that means no gotcha questions. Okay, Todd, you're going to give a brief 2-minute opening, and then we'll just rotate around the table.
Hello, my name is Todd Bacon, and I'm running for Ward 1 Council this year. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Scanlon and commend everyone here for being here tonight, and it's a lot of work, and let's try to have some fun. So I'm a lifelong Lynner, born here 1965, never left Ward. I'm still in Ward 1, married to my wife Colleen, 3 children, 3 grandchildren. I run a small business. It's a construction business out of my home. I've done that for 35 years. A lot of people in Lynn know me from that. A couple of people on this I won't mention, but I've done work for here. I've been here, so that's 35 years in business. So I think I'm bringing to the table my ability to organize. As a general contractor, you know, there's a lot of work organizing folks into, you know, you get electricians, plumbers, all these people coming in together, and I think it melds well with the Ward 1 type of job. I went to Salem State for 2 years. Never graduated. Picked up carpentry on the second summer. I never looked back. So I'm here to put my hat in the ring, and I'm looking for your vote. Thank you.
Paul?
Thank you. My name is Paul Gouthro. First of all, I want to thank the LCTV crew here tonight. A lot of folks in the studio with us. Thank you very much. And there's a lot of key folks outside the studio, and thanks to them very much. I think LCTV is very important, bringing the truth to the citizens of Lynn. I think it's great, and I really, really appreciate the forum and the opportunity to be here. A little bit background of me, if you don't know already. I was born and raised in Roxbury and Dorchester. My father was a Boston policeman. My mother was a housewife, raising my four brothers and sister and myself. I moved to Lynn when I got out of the military over 40 years ago, and I started on with GE Aerospace. Back then it was GE Aviation. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. Prior to getting on with GE, I was offered meritorious promotions for every one of my ranks, which ended with an E5 sergeant, and it's very rare that you have a Marine sergeant getting promoted meritoriously. I say that to let you know that my performance in the Marine Corps and my performance at GE is the background of what I want to share with the citizens of Ward 1. 40 years at GE Aviation before I finally retired the second time. I learned basically, in a nutshell, continuous improvement, continuous improvement, continuous improvement. That is ingrained in me, and I hope to bring that to Ward 1. Thank you.
Jennifer.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me. Hi, my name is Jennifer Long, and I'm running for Ward 1 Council. I'm a working class mom. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I have lived in Lynn for 9 years. I decided to run for Ward 1 Council, to make a difference for my community. There are many aspects of Ward 1 that I would like to address as Ward 1 Councilor. Cleaning up the parks, and fixing the sidewalks, and repairing these roads that need to be fixed, desperately needed to be fixed, and especially Linfield Street. And also, I'd like to work on something about the fire station on Linfield Street to have more emergency access for our community. Working on more security efforts for our schools to keep our children safe. Due to I have an 8-year-old that goes to Lynn Woods. As a mom, as a Lynn resident now, drive around Lynn, Ward 1, I see a lot of things that need to be fixed. A lot of signs need to go up, certain areas that cause a lot of accidents. But all I'm asking for a chance to be a Ward 1 councilor, for a new voice, and and I think it's time to have a woman inside office. Thank you very much. I look forward to being your Ward 1 councilor.
Peter.
How you doing? Just want to thank everybody for making this happen. I know a lot of behind the scenes and the production took a lot of hard work. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Peter Meaney. I'm a candidate for Ward 1 Council for City of Lynn. I was born in Lynn, in Old Lynn Hospital. Growing up, my parents both worked in Lynn. My mother worked at GE for 40 years, and my father was a firefighter for the city. Upon graduating high school, I served in the U.S. Navy. I enlisted right out of high school. After my time in the service, I worked in the nonprofit sector with individuals with intellectual disabilities. While working full-time, I enrolled at North Shore Community College at night. Upon graduating from North Shore, I went to the University of Connecticut, earning my bachelor's degree, and then after that, I earned my doctorate from Boston University. Immediately after graduating from Boston University, I started working in Ward 1. At the time, it was Dr. Westcott's Family Dental. I took over the office in 2016, becoming a small business owner, renaming it Broadway Family Dental. I have been serving the community in that capacity ever since. I am married with 2 daughters, and I currently reside on Grant Road in Ward 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. My name is Jeff Newhall. I'm a candidate for Ward 1 Councilor. I want to thank Mr. Scanlon, the crew here at LCTV, for putting this together tonight so that everyone, voters who have tuned in, so everyone gets a better understanding of kind of what's in front of everybody here. I also want to take the chance to really commend the people at this table. I've been a lifelong resident of the city of Lynn, and Joe, you might know better. I don't ever recall a field this big for the ward council race, and to me it's a great sign for our ward that this many people are actually interested in being the Ward 1 councilor. I just feel like there's times, and it's happening now in some wards, where there is no race, and to see 6 people passionate about it, outworking it, I think speaks volumes about everybody at the table, but most importantly, it's great for Ward 1, in my opinion. As I said, my name is Jeff Newhall. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Lynn. I grew up on Linfield Street. I went to Shoemaker School. I went to Pickering Middle School. We moved essentially 2 blocks away on Kent Road. I'm married to my wife, Christine, and we have 3 kids. Alex is 10, and Eva and Andrew are 8. They're twins, so Peter, he feels my pain. He understands he doesn't know what's in front of him, but I can certainly let him know. I have worked in the city of Lynn. I I've lived in the city of Lynn and worked in the city of Lynn my whole life. I've been the athletic director at St. Mary's High School in Lynn for the past 18 years. I was a teacher there prior to that. I have been elected in the city prior in 2001. At age 24, I ran for school committee and was successful for 4 terms until 2009. And we've been involved in a number of other activities and volunteer opportunities throughout the city. So the city's been very, very good to me, and I see this as an opportunity to give back. So thanks again to all of you that are hosting this tonight.
Michael?
Thank you, and thank you, Lynn TV, for hosting this forum. I am running for Ward 1 because I have a lot to give back to the residents and businesses in Ward 1. I myself am a resident. I'm also a business owner in Ward 1. I have a business on Linfield Street, the old Haywood restaurant, and I bought my first house at 21 on Saunders Road. I grew up on Ford Street, and we currently live on Bridle Path. I come with experience that would help your everyday life. I'm talking about businesses and residents. I plan to address accessibility, affordability, activities, and public safety in our ward. It's vital that we have someone that's going to be ready and steady on day one because we've had a counselor for the past 20 years. This is going to be new for everyone. We need to be sure that the next person has the skills and the capabilities of being able to deliver for you seamlessly. I'm that candidate, and I'm hopeful to get your vote on September 5th during the primary and November 7th during the general election. Your voice is your vote. Don't forget that. Make a plan to vote on September 5th. We have 2 places that you can vote, depending on where you live. And you can find out on the elections website, on the city's website. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to the fun part. We're going to start you off easy with the questions. Okay, so, you know, no haymakers right in the first round. The first question, and it goes to what you folks already said in your opening statements. Ward councils often receive messages and calls about potholes, downed trees, illegal dumping, unplowed streets, and more. If elected, what is your approach to constituent services? We'll begin with Paul.
Thank you, Joe. Immediately, I used a technique during most of my 40 years at GE Aerospace, and it's called a RAIL. And RAIL is an acronym that is for a rolling action item list. I've got about 24 to 30 action items on my rail already, and I'm not even elected. But this rail will record the request, I will return the phone call, I will record what I've done and who has the action item at that point, and I will follow up for you. You don't have to call me in a month. You don't have to call me in 3 months. I will let you know the progress. And if I run into a wall that I can't move, I will let you know, and we'll go forward from there. But basically, the rolling action item list is my plan, and it's very effective.
Thank you, Paul. Do you want me to repeat the question? Anyone who wants me to repeat the question, just say so. Ward councilors often receive messages and calls about potholes, downed trees, illegal dumping, unplowed streets, and more. If elected, what is your approach to constituent services? Jennifer.
Hi. Well, I do know a lot of people that do tree removals, snow plowing, everything. If I had my constituents call me, I can have someone go over to the house and take care of what they need to get taken care of. I can make some phone calls. I can call City Hall right away, see what we can do, help my constituents to get the things done. I will check my emails constantly. I will answer your phone calls, and do my best to help you as much as I can. Thank you very much.
You need me to repeat the question? Please. Okay. Ward councils often receive messages and calls about potholes, downed trees, illegal dumping, unplowed streets, and more. If elected, what is your approach to constituent services? Peter?
My approach to constituent services would be very similar to what my approach is as a dentist. I get calls at all hours of the night. Anyone that's ever had a toothache, you know how important that becomes to you all of a sudden. A couple people in this room can attest to that. I will take things on a case-by-case, one-on-one basis, and we'll solve your problem, we'll address your problem. Personally, I like the one-on-one approach. One of the things I plan on doing once elected is I will go to your house and I will take a picture, or I'll address any specific issue. If it's a snowstorm, something extreme like that, that's understandable. However, just by what I do now as serving the public as a dentist, it's a natural extension as a city councilor, and I feel like it'll be a seamless transition. Thank you.
Jeff, do you need me to repeat? No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks for the question, Joe. Just walking around talking to people, and there's a number of issues in the ward and within the city, but to me, when people ask me what's the biggest issue, to me is it changes from street to street and from house to house, and a lot of the things that you've already alluded to. And I think we will all probably give a similar answer in that responding to these issues in a timely fashion is absolutely necessary. And those could vary from a phone call to actually showing up on site, gathering city services to go to a street, go to a house, go to a park, go to an intersection, whatever that might be. But to me, responding quickly, solving any issues that a constituent may have, or trying to find the right department that can solve that problem is really the most important thing to me that a ward councilor can do. Because there are some Ward 1 as a whole issues, but the biggest issue for me is whatever that person is calling about. And a lot of the things, like I said, that you had alluded to would fall into that category.
Michael, do you need me to repeat?
No, I'm good, thank you. Serving on the school committee for 2 terms, I have relationships with many department heads. So I've worked alongside the mayor, I've worked alongside the ISD director, as well as the DPW. So I have already done these things, walking and knocking on doors. I had a tree literally fall down on Quinn while I was knocking on the door, and there was a crowd of people in the house. I took pictures, sent it to Lisa and Eric, and they came out and corrected it. I was door knocking, and there was a stump that has been untreated for quite a bit of time. I took a picture, sent it to Lisa. I was walking up and down Linfield Street, and there's a part of it that's state, so there was a bunch of leaves that fell a long time ago and overhanging branches, which forced people to walk on Linfield Street as opposed to the sidewalk, which is very dangerous. Took a picture, sent it to the appropriate state department to come and correct that issue. So I'm not waiting until I'm getting elected as the Ward 1 councilor. If I see an issue, I'm going to address it right away. And that's where you get the accessibility and the availability as a councilor that, like me, on issues like this. They'll be addressed to the right person, and you'll see results pretty quickly. Thank you.
The next question. Oh, I'm sorry.
He almost got away. So as I mentioned before, I've been a general contractor for 35 years, and that job, I field 10 to 20 phone calls a day from customers with concerns about their homes. So I'm very well versed in getting the questions, finding a plan quickly, contacting the right person for the right job. So I think it's a nice marriage between my job that I've been doing for 35 years, and into the ward council, Ward 1 councilor. It's not. I know that's not the entire job, but it's a good part of it, and I have a great reputation in getting back to people and doing the job, getting it done right, and calming the person down. It's all part of the whole thing. So I think I'd be, I know I'd be great at being a ward councilor, and I think that's a substantial part of the job. So that's what I'm going to be bringing to the job. 35 years of experience doing, like you said, answering questions, phone calls, all that. That's what I do every day. So looking forward to the challenge.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to ask a question. I know everyone knows it's coming. This is an issues question, but it's a Ward 1 issue. But I think it's been in the paper enough. So we'll start with Jennifer. If anyone needs me to repeat the question, I will. Okay. What is your position on the Broadway project, and as a councilor, how would you engage with the community over differences of opinion?
Oh, good question.
I didn't make it up, I just asked it.
I know, I'm saying it's a good question. I hope I don't get stumped. No, I'm only kidding. Actually, I was just talking about that. I'm for Broadway projects, but I'm not for Broadway project, to be honest with you, because I feel that the citizens, for their property, regarding that they'd like to take some of their property to make Broadway a little bit wider for the buses. And actually, I just like to discuss it with them and see if we can try to work something out about their lands, but I understand they already passed it and everything else. But as a Ward 1 councilor, I honestly think I just want to get into office and see what I can do for my people to help them out, because I actually honestly will try my best to help everybody out. And I wish I can get into more details about the Broadway project, because it was on and then it was off and now it's back on. So when it comes to that situation, for me to get down to speak to my constituents, and then I'll handle that situation when I actually do speak to them. Thank you.
Okay. Peter?
Repeat the question.
Sure. What is your position on the Broadway project, and as a councilor, how would you engage with the community over differences of opinion?
Well, the Broadway project has different perspectives. It's quite complicated to answer. On the one side, I mean, we need to see the area improved. You have to make incremental improvements to Lynn. On the other side, via eminent domain, taking people's property, I mean, frankly, I'm personally affected. My office is right in the middle of where this project's going to be. I have to worry about patient parking. I have to worry about accessibility. I'm not crazy about the idea of having Linfield Street, the Broadway project, and Pickering done at the same time. Anyone that's ever managed a construction project knows that they're always over budget and they take longer. I think some of the timetables the city is giving us are optimistic. I think the planning needs improvement, to say the least. I'm all for improving the area. However, I do have some issues with the project as currently situated. Thank you.
Jeff, you need me to?
Sure.
Okay. What is your position on the Broadway project, and as a councilor, how would you engage with the community over differences of opinion?
So obviously this is a hot button topic at this point, and you know, not to beat around the bush. It's a lot of what's happening has already been done, and you know, we obviously can help as we move forward, whoever here is elected. And it's there is a lot of moving parts, and I think it's it can be difficult until you really know the details of both sides. But the way I look at it, you know, I'm concerned about the people that are being impacted, specifically the ones on Broadway. They need to be treated fairly. I think some of them feel like they haven't been treated fairly, or they did not get the proper seat at the table. I think those need to be addressed as we move forward, and those people need to be compensated accordingly. And I know there's a process for that going forward. But I would also say, I don't think we can afford to not allow this project to go forward with the amount of state funding that we're going to receive. I completely sympathize, and I will work with the people on Broadway to make it as smooth and seamless as possible for them. But I also understand that the intersection in the street is one of the worst in the state. We need to think about this in a much bigger picture. What benefits the drivers, the pedestrians, and to me, the handicap accessibility on that road. I mean, if you want to cross that street, you're going off of a curb and you can't come back on. There's no handicap accessibility. So, you know, I do believe there's still a lot of moving parts.
First one to get the bell.
Better than a red card.
He did do the red card first.
I know, so I got a yellow card and a red card. It's like a soccer game.
Okay, so I've seen many letters to the editors about it, but I'll speak directly to the residents and businesses as I have. I've gone to all the meetings that have been held by Salvi, and most of them that have been held by the city. The Broadway project has issues with regards to the process that took place, and that's the biggest thing that people have issues with. Not the project entirely, but the process. And the process is, the issue is that people weren't included in the process, the people that are directly impacted. So I've already had many conversations. I agree that the 5-year temporary eminent domain is really just a number to throw out. I specifically asked them if that is set in stone, and they said no. It could be 7 years. It could be 2 years. But you have to take that into consideration as well. It goes to the respect of the residents, the respect of the businesses, and that means that their voice has to be heard. We have they're adding a light to that particular section, or they're hoped to, which is going to directly impact a family that already has a pole right alongside their driveway. The vote was tabled, and we're being told that it's probably going to be brought up on the September 12th meeting. So it hasn't passed. There's still time for there to be further discussions as to the process in this particular project. But yes, the work needs to be done. The process needs to be improved. Thank you.
Todd?
Yes, I would come out and say I am in favor of the project, but again, we need to be careful about, we need to respect the people that are bordering this project, because they're going to have some issues. I know I talked to a couple of them. One's losing a tree, some shrubs, some fences, so on and so forth. And you have to address that situation. But we need to be proactive in keeping our roads, up and running. And we need them. I believe the figure is somewhere around $5 million we got from the state to do this. We've got the money. It's going to be inconvenient. It is, and we need to work with each person that's affected and try to make it as seamless as possible. I know the corner where Salvi's thing, that's where they want to clip that corner and put a handicap ramp there, and that's unfortunate because that is his land, and I hate to see that. But I think, well, I know that there'll be some compromises, and I think we, as a ward councilor, that's going to be part of my job, is to find some common ground and make this thing work. Thank you.
Paul, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, thanks, Joe. Absolutely, the residents, the abutters of that entire corridor should have been respected a lot more than they were. There was a lot of process flaws. There was a delay due to the pandemic. This idea for the Broadway project was actually prior to the pandemic. So the pandemic was a factor, but no excuses, no excuses. I will say this, if I was councilor at that time, I would have involved the public and the abutters a lot more than they were. And that's the rub here, is basically educating the abutters as to what temporary eminent domain is, what permanent eminent domain is, why the temporary eminent domain is 5 years and the construction forecast is for 2 years. It's because they don't want to have to go through the eminent domain legal process again if the construction schedule slips. It's definitely, now we're reacting. It's a project that definitely needs to be done. There is some permanent eminent domain, like Mr. Bacon said, at the corner of Salvi's plot for the wheelchair ramp. But we can do this. We can inform the butters. We can get them comfortable, and we can have this project be successful.
Thank you. That was everyone knew that one was coming. I mean, that's not a surprise. Okay, here's another one that you probably know is coming too. But the Pickering Middle School is another big project. Do you believe that it's moving in the right direction? And that's, Peter, you go first.
Well, the question is, do I believe if Pickering is going in the right direction?
It's another big project. Do you believe that it is moving in the right direction?
I believe it doesn't really have a choice but to move in the right direction. I mean, we don't have a physical place to put our students. The location, not my favorite location. I have a couple of concerns. Specifically, people seem to forget that the land they're trying to build on was a former coal dump. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be an issue going forward. It hasn't been addressed, at least in the plans that I've seen. It has to be done. Like I said, to bring up the point before, having this major project with the Broadway major project and Linfield major project, I mean, I just don't see a way how that's going to be feasible. But that's the way the city has decided to progress, and I wasn't on the council at the time when that happened. Thank you.
Jeff, do you need me to repeat the question?
Yeah, please.
The Pickering Middle School is another big project. Do you believe that it is moving in the right direction?
I want to believe it's moving in the right direction, but we've been talking about the direction of this project for quite a while, over 7, 8, 9 years, and I do believe at this point it's probably progressed further than it has previously, and I'm optimistic that we can get underway as soon as possible. I know there's still a lot of work to do around the financing of it, working with the state and city money, and I think that's going to be, there are challenges around that for sure. But I graduated from Pickering in 1990, and if you told me that in the year 2023 we'd still be in that building, I just wouldn't think it was even feasible. But here we are, and I think what goes on inside that building is still great work, specifically by the teachers and the administration of that school. But there's no question that we need a new middle school, if not more than one. And it solves so many problems. But, obviously we're in favor of it. Is it going in the right direction? I want to believe it is. Once I'm elected, I will certainly get a lot more involved in that and work with fellow city councilors, the mayor, the school committee, the building committee to make sure that that happens.
Michael, do you need me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
So I served on the school committee when we voted to push this forward to the MSBA. And prior to that, in 2017, there was a vote for 2 middle schools because we had the need for 2 middle schools. We don't have that same process going forward. We only have enough for 1 middle school. I believe that the issue that is being overlooked is the money issue. And if you looked at the budget, the mayor ceased all capital improvement projects except for the school because we didn't really have access funds to cover our portion of it. That scares me, considering that we need to have enough to move it forward. The location I'm satisfied with. I think that it was smart to move it from one side of Sisson to the other. What concerns me is the condition of Sisson. As we know that there's a portable class attached to the building that was only supposed to be there for 5 years. It's now over 20 years. We have ceiling panels falling down, water leaking. There's a plethora of issues with that school. So I'm hopeful that the integrity of the building isn't impacted by the digging and building of the new Pickering. What this does is it allows students to have a place to call home and to learn. My daughter graduated from Pickering 2 years ago. I went to Pickering myself. And it allows for the project to not really cause too much concern. But we need the new Pickering. We need it now. And I'm for it. Thank you.
Todd, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm in agreement with Michael on the fact that we need 2 middle schools, but for now we're going to go with the 1. The financing is an issue. I believe we need to have an answer by October. We're hoping to have an answer by October, and I know that the numbers have changed, but I'm sure the mayor's office is doing a great job in acquiring these funds. I live on Canomo Avenue. I'll be directly affected by I look out my bedroom window and it's going to be right there. And I say build it 10 stories high if you could. I think it's great for the city. It's great for the children. We need it. Let's do it. Let's find a way to do it. And I believe there's going to be the traffic situation in that neighborhood 2 times a day is atrocious. And just to address this briefly, we need a place to pull these buses off the road and keep that traffic going. I see it on other towns, you know, they line up the buses, the children come out, they get on the buses, they move on. This street is jammed up for a half an hour with the buses just sitting in the middle of the road, which directly affects, you know, Broadway all the way down Broadway, Parkland Ave. I mean, it chokes the whole thing. So I think in talking with some of the guys down there, I walk my dog there every morning, there's a new plan for some new traffic. Okay, don't ring the...
Paul, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, thank you, Joe.
All right.
I think the Pickering Middle School, as it is today, is on a good track. I've been attending most, if not all, the planning meetings with the building committee. I know why we went from Magnolia Park to the back of Sisson where the tennis courts are. Basically, the design, the original design in Magnolia Park would have had to go down about 148 feet before we hit bedrock to put the columns in to support the building. So long story short, plus unearthing urban fill may be very expensive. So those two factors alone were estimated to cost $20 million, and that was just the foundation of the new school. So the designers, which is a great asset, we are very lucky to have, I forget the designer's name, but the company, but they are very good. They came up with a suggestion to put the school up on the parking lot at the end of Sisson where the tennis courts are, add another story because of the square footage loss. And the access road, as Mr. Bacon pointed out, the access road will be near the school. The entry to the school will be at Magnolia Park, and there'll be an access road for the buses to onload and offload the students. So this is on a very good track, and kudos to the entire team for doing a job well done so far.
Jennifer, you need me to repeat?
No, thank
Okay.
you. I think it is a good idea to have a new school. We do need two schools. The Sisson, you go inside the gym, whoa, everything. Also, it would be great for the kids. We do actually, another reason we need new schools is we need smaller classes. When I used to work for the Revere Public Schools, there's teachers, they're handling 32 children. Yeah, kindergarten had 32 kids. Whoa, that's a lot of work for a teacher. And that's why I think it's a good idea that we do build a new school. And also, it would be great because we'll have more security with the doors. And because a lot of these schools are so old, and a lot of the doors around the schools do not have alarms. But the main entrance they do have cameras. So personally, I do think it's a good idea to have new schools because the kids deserve, and the taxpayers deserve, to have new schools for their children. And it really will immensely help the teachers to have smaller classes. I just saw firsthand how the brand new schools they're wonderful. And that's about it. As Ward 1 Councilor, I try my hardest to make the schools safer, try to get the other school system get going. But I do understand about the income coming in for the $1.5 million that we just got. But besides the point, I think that it would be good for the children.
That's it for that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to turn to the some perennial Ward 1 issues, so to speak. Because I can remember some of these issues 40, 50 years ago. How will you help protect Ward 1's natural resources, such as Lynn Woods, the reservoirs, and Sluice Pond, and Flax Pond?
It's me, yeah.
It's Jeff, I'm sorry.
So I think we talk about, and I've said this on a number of different times, there are issues, there are problems with schools and Broadway and Linfield Street, and they're all very real issues, but I think sometimes we fail to recognize some of the great assets we have in our city and specifically in Ward 1. With Flax and Sluice Pond, Gannon Golf Course, Wyoming Little League, Goudy Park, Magnolia Park, Lynn Woods. There's some great assets in this city. And I think it's a critical, one of the most critical things a ward councilor can do is to protect those assets, work with city agencies on the upkeep of those, specifically around the grounds, the trash, which I will say the new barrels, I've noticed less and less trash specifically at Gouthro Park in the last month since those went in. So I think protecting those, and when you look at the 20-year master plan, the vision for Lynn, strategic plan, so to speak, one of the bullet points in there, it talks about a diverse population, but one that takes care of shared spaces, our natural resources, and each other. And I think if we're able to do those three things right there in our ward, in our city, it'll make the city we all live in that much better.
Michael, you want the question?
Oh, no, I'm good, thank you. So we're blessed to have great green space and open space in Ward 1. I've been so lucky to live in multiple areas of Ward 1, from Ford Street to Saunders, from Saunders to Cedarbrook, from Cedarbrook to Bridle Path. I can tell you what concerns me, and I believe many residents of Ward 1, is the fires that have been happening now twice over the past 2 years. I know that I'm on the Sluice Pond Association, and I know that one of our concerns was the runoff and how that contaminates the water, and we have to get it treated more often, which obviously interrupts the ability to enjoy that body of water. And we know that Sluice and Flax are connected, as you can see on Broadway. So those are things that I would continue to remain on top of. And a part of my platform is activities. Activities are things that our families should be able to do in our ward. We're very lucky that Lynn is a city of its size, but if you look at a map, the majority of it is land. Lynn Woods takes up a substantial portion of Lynn and of Ward 1. And it's important to protect Lynn Woods, and it's important to make sure that our fire department has the equipment that it needs in order to maintain and quickly put out the fires that are happening. And we need to continue to push back against the state to make sure that we're getting the proper piping so runoff water doesn't go into the water. And that's happening on Linfield Street now. So it's about relationships, being accessible and available.
Second one to get the bell. Todd.
Yes. I'm a huge fan of Sluice Pond, Flax Pond, and Lynn Woods growing up in this area. I mean, ice fishing on Flax Pond, ice fishing on Sluice Pond in the winter. Boating, I put my boat in Sluice. And Lynn Woods, I mean, it's just, it's a gem, and we need to protect it. And that means absolutely no building on that land, in my opinion, can ever be allowed. I know there was talk of it, with the school. It's a sensitive subject with that a few years ago, but once you open that up, it's just going to open up a can of worms. So that's my big thing, and I'd like to see in Lynn Woods, I'd like to see it being used. I'd like to see it. I don't know if this is possible. This is just a vision that I have since I was a child. Get up there, have a campground up there. Let's get these kids from the other parts of the city. Let's get them down there on the weekends or whatever. Have a place where they can pitch a tent safely under supervision. Utilize the space. I mean, I mountain bike up there all the time, and it's great. But there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of the usage of Lynn Woods, and I don't see a problem. I think we can do it. I think I can get that thing going. So that's one of my plans.
Okay. Thank you, Todd. Paul?
Thank you, Joe. Ward 1 is fantastic. I love Ward 1, and I'll tell you, the recreational watershed actually begins up at Nels Pond. Nels Pond drains into Cedar Pond. Cedar Pond drains into Sluice. Sluice drains into Flax. Flax drains into Strawberry Brook. Strawberry Brook drains into the ocean down at Summer Street. It's a beautiful thing. And the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, especially the sewer engineers, maintain those culverts and such. There's actually a great program right now being studied with a BRIC grant. I forget what the letters BRIC stand for, but they're actually looking at using Cedar Pond as a flood storage pond. basically taking the pressure off of Sluice and Flax from flooding, as well as Strawberry Brook down on Ford Street. And that should come out in December. They're going to use like a flotation device to let Cedar Pond fill up to a point before it transfers water to Sluice and then on to Flax. Lynn Woods, another great asset, is under a conservation restriction. The governor signed it off. There's a couple of things that just came back from the state that our city legal department is covering, and it should be lock-wired pretty soon. So there's a conservation restriction on Lynn Woods, which is great.
Thank you. Jennifer, should I repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. How will you help protect Ward 1's natural resources such as Lynn Woods, the reservoirs, Sluice Pond, and Flax Pond?
Well, first of all, when I first moved to Lynn, I was amazed of how the ponds, Lynn Woods, beautiful trail to go hiking, biking, as Todd would say. And, you know, and it is the right thing to do, is protect Lynn Woods. It's a beautiful scenery, and Lynn has, you know, I think it's great that everybody can go up in the city to go hiking. We have a close area to go hiking. So I really seriously think it shouldn't be touched. It's great that we have a baseball field. My daughter plays there, softball. Also, the ponds are beautiful. I love how you can go on your boats, and I love how we have a landing there. We're very lucky in Ward 1 to have all this for the city of Lynn. So my thing is try to keep them clean, make sure no contamination, as Michael would say, to keep it safe for everyone. You know, we never know. You know, dogs walk around with their owners. We don't want the dogs going over to the pond and there's contamination in there, and all of a sudden they're getting sick. You know, and I love how we have the water fountain downstairs, down on Linfield Street, where the kids can go in, and the sprinklers. I used to bring my daughter there. It's just amazing. I just think Lynn's a great city, and I'm very happy that I did move here. And it's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Meaney?
Yes, so I think the key to preserving the natural spaces, the Lynn Woods, the Flax, and Sluice Pond, is a couple things. It's community involvement, preservation, and improvement. You need to improve the places we have and preserve what we have. The way you can do that is having pride, having community members take pride in these things. I mean, the Flax Pond Association, the Sluice Pond Association, I'm a member of both of them. There's really passionate people that work hard and they do the best with what they have. As Ward 1 Councilor, what I'll do is I'll enable them to have the resources and streamline communication and anything they would need to improve on that. The community members are what make or break those things. By improving just the parking lot on the Lynn Woods Park, and just having stones around Flax Pond, simple things that can be done cheaply and effectively, we can improve and preserve these places. Thank you.
The next question is another one from the 80s, because I had to answer it before. As Ward 1 Councilor, how would you engage with state agencies overseeing parts of the ward, such as Linfield Street /129?
I would continue what I've already been doing. I explained earlier that I was door knocking on Linfield Street, and I walked on a sidewalk that was still full of leaves and overhung branches, which made it impossible to walk through. And so I reached out to the state, the Department of Transportation, DOT, and made my concerns known. I also reached out to the city to make sure that there was backup. Lisa and Eric also reached out to the state. It's about relationships that you already have that make it much easier to get your point across. I think that also being active in the community is vital. Again, I was walking down the street. I didn't have to wait for someone to call me to complain. A lot of people aren't aware of the resources or the ability to complain about these things, but the city and the state have to take ownership of areas that are under their control. That's why we pay our taxes to both the state and to the city. So it's important to continue to push that so they know that these are taxpayers and businesses that rely on the access for people to get to and from in order to make a living. So that goes to my accessibility aspect of my platform, and that's something that I'll continue to push and push and push. Thank you.
Thank you. Todd?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. As Ward 1 Councilor, how would you engage with state agencies overseeing parts of the ward, such as Linfield Street / Route 129?
How would I? Okay, so I would first of all have to find out how to do that. I need to make a connection with Mass DOT, which, by the way, I believe they're doing a fantastic job. My mom lives on Linfield Street, and she had some construction done, oh geez, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and she had some issues with her sidewalk and the handicap ramp, and I made one phone call, and they were there the next day. I met with them, we talked, they rectified the situation without making you feel like you're doing something wrong. They were very receptive, and I've seen that in a few, and I had to speak up for my neighbor as well, helped her out with a similar situation. But I think you just have to open up the lines of communication and listen to the people on the road that are having issues and stay on it. That's you know, make those phone calls and create a good relationship, a working relationship with the foreman out there and the workers. It goes a long way. So that's how I would approach that.
Okay, Paul, do you need me to?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, the Linfield Street is a state highway, obviously, and you have to work with the state DOT folks. I've already reached out to the state DOT construction project engineer. I've also reached out to the state fellow who does the traffic studies on Linfield Street. And I can't wait to get elected, because it's frustrating now not being elected and not having the power to execute until I do get elected. But one of the things I want to do on Linfield Street with the state is to do a traffic study, because right now we only have one set of control lights coming out at Regina Road, and we really need another set of control lights either at Bradford or at Dartmouth. And to get that done, or to get that started at least, you need a traffic study done. And all the folks who live behind that section, when they want to come out in a controlled fashion onto Linfield Street, they have to come out on Regina Road. Well, if school's in session, or school is either arrival or drop-off, or dismissal, I mean, it's tough to get out at that one light. And sometimes you wait 10-15 minutes at Bradford to take a left to go up to the Rotary. So we really need another set of control lights on Linfield Street. And there's no problem with working with state people, DCR people. I actually enjoy it, developing a great working relationship with them, and then go from there, get things done.
Almost the bell. Jennifer, should I repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. As Ward 1 Councilor, how would you engage with state agencies overseeing parts of the ward, such as Linfield Street / 129?
Okay. As you heard what I said before, that Linfield Street is basically a mess. I heard a lot from my constituents that was like the first thing that come out of their mouth. When are they going to do Linfield Street? I mean, it's time. We do pay taxes, as Michael was saying. And, and they have basically, every time I look, they're going up again. And then you look around, and nothing's really being done. I think it's time that we actually do get Linfield Street. People need to have the right to go down Linfield Street, not worry about their front end or their tire falling off because they hit this huge pothole. I don't know. There's just one thing that there's a lot of streets that need to be cleaned up. And Linfield Street is definitely one of them. And that should be the first priority. And I will make that the first priority, the best I can, once I get elected for Ward 1 Council. Thank you.
Peter?
So my relationship with the state agencies would be fair but firm. My priority will always be the people of Ward 1. I already have some limited experience with this, with dealing with insurance companies. They deny claims, my patients get a big bill, and it's unfair, it's unjust. I would like to cut the bureaucracy, cut the red tape, just who works for who. The people of Ward 1 will be and shall always be my priority. The state agencies will have a respectful, fair working relationship with them, and we'll get things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. when we talk about experience in the race, Linfield Street, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, I probably am more experienced than that as I grew up right next to the fire station where my father still lives. So I can attest to the fact that the traffic's bad, the streets are bad. We've had horrifying accidents on our front lawn. So at the intersection, Paul, that you're talking about. So there are a lot of issues, and I would say it's one of the only roads that I know of in which half of it is a state highway and the other half of it is a city highway. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but you notice it in a snowstorm where it stops, because one is usually better than the other. And depending on the storm and what's been called in, you definitely know it's right at the Knights of Columbus where they turn around and where we start. But to me, I'm a basketball coach. We've had a decent amount of success. To me, you got to build a team, and I think I know how to do that. And you have to have all the right pieces. And when I say a team, you need Department of Transportation, you need Senator Creighton, you need Representative Wong, you need Representative Cahill, you need everybody on the same page, because the more people you have on your team that have more connections and more ability to reach out to different departments within the city and the state, the better chance we're going to have of improving Linfield Street and all the issues that we have from Goodwin Circle to Fosse's Pizza, essentially. Thank you.
Okay. That's that one. And then we'll go to what? We got a few more.
Okay, good.
I'm not tipping my hand here.
You said a few, so that means 3.
Don't challenge the moderator.
That's all right.
This one is submitted by a viewer of LCTV, and but it pertains to Ward 1 particularly. Please describe at least one specific step you will take to address the issue of street racing, speeding, reckless driving through our Ward 1 neighborhoods. Todd?
Well, okay. Well, first off, we'd have to work closely with the police department. I'm sure that's a first step. I haven't really been affected too much by that. I mean, I live on Canomo, and it is a cut-through street. People do speed through there, but I in my lifetime in Lynn, I'm not to disagree with this person, but I don't see a lot of racing and whatnot in my neighborhood. But again, if that's her concern, we'd have to, set up a speed trap. Obviously, work with the police department on something like that to try to find out who's doing it. The neighborhood watch they get a license plate, report that. So I think that would be important. Get the community together. If it's getting out of control, let's all get together and let's report on these people. Let's get descriptions of the vehicles, the people driving the vehicles, and pass it on to the police. And the police will do, as you know, the Lynn Police Department does a fantastic job. So I'm sure that they would move quickly on that. And that.
Okay, Paul?
Joe? I have to second Mr. Bacon again tonight, because basically I think the most effective method we would have is have the citizens report the behavior, because we can't put police everywhere at every point in time. It's just not feasible. So we rely on the citizens to safely get information and pass it on to the police. One of the things that I would like to do, and it's on the top of my priority list, is to try installing speed bumps, especially on the pass-through streets. And this is going to be an effect of the Broadway construction project when it gets finalized. A lot of people go down Mayfair Street right now to cut down and avoid the light at Euclid, and or they go down Genes and they cut across to Warwick to avoid the light at Euclid. But with the lights, with the construction project finished, the lights will allow flow, and it's going to actually decrease the cut-throughs. However, people who are used to cutting through those streets, I hope to install the first set ever of speed bumps that screw into the street and are removable for the snowplows in the winter. But definitely try speed bumps because they do work in Peabody, they do work in Salem, and they'll be very effective to slow the traffic down. Thank you.
Jennifer?
Hi, how you doing? No, thank you. As Paul said, which I was just about to say that too, we do need speed bumps on Linfield Street. I've drove through Chelsea and other cities, and they do actually help. And sometimes you get off guard, and you don't expect one when it's there. But I think it is good. And I think the speed bumps should be like right before the schools. So by the time they get into the speed bump, they have to slow down so pedestrians, my constituents, can cross the street. So I do agree with Paul that we should have some speed bumps, and we definitely should have speed traps. And if the police can't, if we can work with the police, maybe they could put a speed trap down up there with the camera so we can get a picture of their license plate to slow people down driving down Linfield Street for safety.
Okay, thank you.
So
Peter?
the speeding and the drag racing problem in Ward 1 has been an issue for a while with the increase in population. There's really no one-size-fits-all solution. I think the couple of solutions, you should take different approaches to solve this problem. Whether it be speed traps, I mean, a couple reckless driving tickets will straighten your tune right out. Speed humps, those could potentially slow things down. Community involvement, reporting, and then cameras. These would have to be analyzed in more detail about cost effectiveness and ROI, but this issue will be and should be addressed. Thank you.
Okay. Jeff?
Yes, so, you know, I would say it is an issue. I live in between Linfield Street and Den Quarry Road, which I would say, you know, one of them's Daytona and the other one's Loudon. Michael, you know, you lived on Cedar Brook Road. It's a problem at night, you know, probably from 10 p.m. to 2 in the morning. And it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. And again, as I said earlier, it's a team approach. You know, public safety, there's a lot of moving parts. But again, Linfield Street is half of a state road. We need to utilize the state police as well. The Lynn police can only do so much. You know, we need obviously more police would be ideal, but with the areas in Ward 1, the roads that we're talking about, one cruiser or two cruisers are not going to solve that problem once a week. So I think we need to work with, you know, the chief of police. We need to work with our state delegation. We need to work with the state police and come up with a plan. I think, as Peter alluded to, you know, it's all fun and games until you get caught. And when it hits you in the wallet, I think that, you know, as bad as it sounds, they may continue to do it. But if they're not doing it in Lynn, that kind of solves our problem, so to speak. Not that I want them to go to Peabody and do it, but I don't want them on Den Quarry Road or Cedar Brook Road or Linfield Street or Millard Ave, which is where this is occurring. So again, I think the team approach, working with our city agencies and our state agencies to solve this problem.
Thank you. I think it all stems to active leadership. Obviously, they need residents of Ward 1 as well as businesses in Ward 1 need active leadership. It's the neglect of Linfield Street and Broadway and Euclid Ave that bring the traffic to where it goes. I lived on Cedar Brook and it was constant. Someone hit my mirror off twice and I had to pay the deductible because I couldn't figure out who did it because my Ring doorbell only gets it from one side. It's unfortunate, and then we have issues. I spoke to the traffic enforcement officer, and there's less than 5 police officers that are on the traffic enforcement subsidy of the Lynn Police Department. He needs 11. He says, I can self-fund if you give me 11 people to enforce the traffic here in the city of Lynn. And it's things like that that when there's active leadership, you'll see movement and change. It's vital for the safety. I moved from Cedar Brook because I had 3 kids. 2 were under, one's going to be 6, one just turned 4. I could not risk them playing out front of my house and getting hit by a car. So we moved to a cul-de-sac. Not everybody has that ability or can do that. So we have to have active leadership that looks at the overall problems that lead to why people are going on these side streets like Cedar Brook and Mayfair and Jeunesse. My mother-in-law lives on Jeunesse, and when I park there, it's crazy. So active leadership and a plan.
Saved by the bell. Okay. The last question. Okay, it wasn't 3. This is the last. And Paul will go first. What is another common issue or complaint you've heard from residents so far in this campaign, and how would you address it?
One of the complaints actually concerns one of our major schools in Ward 1, the Shoemaker Elementary School. And the complaint is parking. I won't say resident parking because residents aren't the only people involved. But Shoemaker, which I found out, is one of our great elementary schools because it has a very special needs program in it. And it has an inordinate amount of teachers that are required to serve these special kids. And upwards, I think, north of 100 staff members are at that school. So they need parking. The residents need parking. The parents that drop off these special children or pick them up or meet with the teachers or the paraprofessionals, they need parking. So I've been working already to try to take some pressure off the resident parking. I spoke at the Traffic Commission about a month ago, begging them to leave the resident parking signs up so that we don't roller coaster this problem somewhere else. And I promised in the meantime to try to do something about parking at Shoemaker, and I've already moved out on that. I've met with the principal, the vice principal, I've met with a number of department heads, and we have a plan. September 6th, you will see me at the drop-off, because I need to understand the parking situation firsthand, and I will execute on improving the parking at Shoemaker.
Jennifer?
Hi.
You want me to repeat it?
Please.
Yes. What is another common issue or complaint you've heard from residents so far in this campaign, and how would you address it?
Like I said before, a lot of people complain about how nothing, like trash, some parks need to, like Gouthro Park needs work done. A lot of parks need work done. What else? Near my daughter's school, I had a lady tell me that she had a water problem from there. It took the city to do so long to help her out, and there's like 2 sewers there. I just think that, make sure all the sewers are clean, just a lot of things. I mean, there's so many complaints that I'm trying to keep track. But like I said, I'm going to try my best as Ward 1 Council and to get some of these, a lot of these matters, to help my constituents out. That's it.
Thank you. Peter, do you need me to repeat?
No, Joe, I got this. The most glaring issue that I've heard from just all my interactions with knocking on doors and talking to constituents is access to emergency services. Just a couple weeks ago, I had a dear friend. He lives off of Apple Blossom. He had a stroke. With the construction on Linfield, it took the fire department and the ambulance almost 20 minutes to get there. He could be dead. Fortunately, he's alive. The ideal place to put emergency services in that area would be that firehouse that's been, I think it's arson investigation right now. Across the street where Union used to be, they're putting 264 units of senior housing. So we're literally importing the people who use the most emergency services, and they have no access to it. So unequivocally, having emergency access readily available to our seniors and our residents in that area off of Linfield would be an issue that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Jeff?
I would agree with Dr. Meaney. The fire station, there's a lot more that goes into than just saying we're going to open it. We haven't had that as an active fire station in well over 20 years. So there's a lot of work that would go into that. But I don't think there's any question that there has to be some type of a plan other than what we have right now for emergency services with the housing developments that are going up in Ward 1. The one that Peter talked about at Union Hospital and behind it, as well as all, just right next to me on Kent Road over the last 7 years, there's 12 new houses up there with a ton of residents. So, and I mapped it off. I mean, from the end of Linfield Street at the Lynn line to the Broadway Fire Station is almost 3 miles. Someone, it doesn't matter their age. Obviously, some people are maybe more in need than others, but having to wait 20 minutes in a critical time of need is just not acceptable. So that would be a real significant one that I think needs to be addressed. And the second one is just the condition of the parks. Our play spaces in Lynn, they're not, I'm not saying they're bad or they're great. I just feel like the people don't think that we have access to some of the funding to improve our parks that really has happened throughout other parts of the city throughout the last 8 to 10 years. So, I think those two things are very important issues that need to be addressed, our parks and our public safety.
Michael?
We're almost neighbors. We're almost bought on Kent. So I can tell you, hands down, the biggest complaint that I hear from residents is the affordability to live here. Taxes. And that stems into the fact that, hey, I'm writing a check for $9,000 each year, and the emergency services are 2 miles away from me. It's easier for me to sell, go buy somewhere else that doesn't have this issue with public safety, and live the rest of the remaining years. So, when we talk about affordability, we hear quite often, and you see it in the vision plan for Lynn, which talks about the affordability for renters. We also have to address the affordability for property owners. The property taxes, for me, are substantial. And if you have a $12,000 a year tax bill, that's $1,000 a month. Then you add in utilities, then you add in insurance, and we haven't even talked about the mortgage, and it becomes unaffordable. We have households where there are seniors that are living and relying on pensions or Social Security. We have one income earning households that can't afford it. So those are things that I hear on every door. I literally have grown men almost in tears telling me that they're going to be pushed out of the city that they lived in their entire life because it's becoming unaffordable. We have to address that by looking at the way that we have our tax revenues coming in at 90-10, and I would have the experience to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Todd?
Okay, I'd like to agree with Dr. Meaney and Jeff when it comes to the firehouse at 625 Linfield Street. I think I mentioned it in my first interview back in April. With all the building going on in that area, public safety has to be brought up there. It's a lot of extra people. So I would appreciate a rescue, even if we just get a rescue unit in there for health issues, and eventually an engine. I've talked to the chief, I've talked to the mayor about it, and they said, we'd love it too. And there's obviously issues with the budget and getting that paid for. But it's not something that's, we can do it if we get the right funding. So I would love to see that. If Broadway's on a call, Broadway's are great. They get there in 4 minutes most of the time. I'm not saying anything negative against that, but if they're on another call, the next closest firehouse, I believe, is up in Pine Hill. And that's adding an extra 8 minutes. So it's just, we really need this, at least a rescue up there. Let's try that first, and then and real quick before I get buzzed, Briarcliff Lodge boat ramp. I've been hearing a lot about that. I know it sounds trivial, but people need to get their boats in there safely, and it's a mess. So I'm going to be working on that.
Okay, thank you. I mean, that word buzz takes on new meanings with the legality of everything else. So anyways, it's time to do the closing round. Jennifer will go first, and 90 seconds, I believe. That's what Josh says. He's the man. So go ahead.
Hi. Thank you again. And as I said before, my name is Jennifer Long. Please consider me for the new voice as Ward 1 Councilor. Please vote for September 5th and November 7th for me. Thank you very much.
I just want to thank everyone for having us and hosting us tonight. I know a lot of work went into this behind the scenes. As Ward 1 Councilor, I will bring my unique perspective as a father, husband, doctor, veteran, small business owner, homeowner, and taxpayer to the council. Ward 1 is in need of new leadership, genuine leadership. Ward 1 deserves someone who is 100% committed to the people of Ward 1. I am all in on Ward 1. No one will work harder to answer your questions, listen to your concerns, or address your issues. My name is Dr. Peter Meaney, and I am asking for your vote on September 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for doing this all night. I asked for your vote on September 5th. I think it's a critical day. I know primaries in the city of Lynn historically don't have a ton of consequence. This does. There's 6 of us here, and in 2 weeks and a day, there will only be 2 left standing. So I asked for your vote to be the next councilor of Ward 1. I have the knowledge to get the job done. I've lived in Ward 1 my entire life. I went to Shoemaker School and Pickering Middle School, played in Wyoming Little League, as I had mentioned before. I think it's important to understand the issues of the ward, respond to those issues in a timely fashion. I have the experience as an elected official prior on the Lynn School Committee for 4 terms. I was a member of the Manning Field Commission, the beautiful new Manning Field that we have back in the 2000s that's really become a great facility. And as a tournament director and a committee member of the MIAA, I've spearheaded the drive to bring over 30 state championship games to the city of Lynn, which I think has been tremendous for the city, for that stadium, and for all the businesses in that area. And I'm committed. Again, as a lifelong Lynn resident, volunteering in the community, I'm a coach, a parent, former very average player at Wyoming Little League, current athletic director and coach at St. Mary's, and I feel like I've made a positive impact on the lives of a number of students in our city. So I respectfully ask for your vote on September 5th for Ward 1 Councilor. Thank you.
Satterwhite, and I'm asking for your vote on September 5th. This is going to be the first time in 20 years that Ward 1 will have a new councilor, and I hope to be that person. You're going to get active leadership and someone that can communicate with the majority of our residents, someone that speaks both English and Spanish. You're going to get someone that will push for accessibility, activities, affordability, and public safety here within the ward. It's vital to have someone that will be able to bring the knowledge, the experience, and the background on day one. We need not only ready leadership, but we also need steady leadership. It's vital for the residents and the businesses. We deserve it. We pay our taxes, and we should get something in return, and that is an active ward councilor. I always say this, and I'll say it one more time. As a ward councilor works on behalf of the city, but for the residents and businesses of Ward 1. And I mean that. We're going to provide the information that comes from the city. We're going to do the city's business, but we can never forget that we work for you. Please elect me as your next Ward 1 councilor, Michael Satterwhite. Thank you.
Todd?
So we've talked a lot about things we want to accomplish as ward councilors, myself. So to achieve these goals, we need to be proactive, not reactive. We can't wait for the challenges to arise before we act. Instead, we have to anticipate our needs of our community and work together to address those. And that's what I'm going to bring to the table. Let's not wait for tomorrow. Let's do it today. Proactive, that's going to be my running voice. So I'm just filled with gratitude for the opportunity to be here and to have served the community and hopefully continue to serve. Let's be proactive in shaping our future and creating a community we can all be proud of. So on Election Day, September 5th, I humbly ask for your vote and continued support. Vote for Bacon, because bacon's good.
Thank you, Joe. I just want to touch upon the Linfield Street Fire Station in my closing remarks because I've been doing a lot of work on that as well. We have 2 new engines coming in December. We have 2 more engines coming in the summer of next year. Hopefully one of those new engines will get there, but let's be realistic. Putting an engine in a fire crew, which I advocate, not basic a BLS or an ALS unit, but a full engine crew with firefighters to serve the changing demographics of Ward 1 is the way to go. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very, very difficult to do. It may take a couple of years, but it's something that I excel at. I'm a team leader, and I work with people to get complex things like that done. And I really think that I'm the best value for your vote on September 5th. and November 7th. Another thing, lastly, is what separates me from the fine people at this table is that I'm fully retired and I've already raised my family. I have 100% time to dedicate to this seat. I can work during the day. I have worked during the days. I have saw things. I have seen things and actually fixed them along the way. So I think I stand out from these fine folks at this table, and your vote on September 5th and November 7th is best invested in me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes our forum this evening.
Thank you.
And a few housekeeping things to say. First of all, if you saw a candidate you liked and you really want to vote for them, make sure you get out and vote on September 5th. Because as someone alluded to, this is a large field for ward councilor. It's the largest I can remember in the last at least 40 years. And there's only one that was larger, and I'll say that in a minute. But September 5th is primary day. You have to get out and vote, and you have to participate. And when Peter Donnelly died as councilor of Ward 1, just imagine this. Donnelly Drive's named after him. He was councilor a long time. 18 people ran in a special election. That's the most I can remember.
Is that the one you won, Joe?
No. No, that was in high school.
How many people did you go against?
5.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But anyways, we will be having preliminary election results here at LCTV on September 5th at 8 p.m. And we wish everyone luck. We wish everyone the best. I know it's not easy. I know Ward 1 has grown tremendously since I served up there, and there's still an awful lot of hills, dogs, streets without sidewalks, houses you never thought existed, and a lot of problems that are very unique to that portion of the city, which is really geographically half the city of Lynn. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.